The morning sun crept through the cracks of a small wooden house on the outskirts of Manila. Inside, a young boy named Eli sat beside his father, who was carefully carving the leg of a chair from a rough piece of wood. The rhythmic sound of chisel against grain filled the air, mixing with the soft hum of birds outside. Eli loved watching his father work, the patience in his hands, the love in his craft. His father, Antonio, was a carpenter known for honesty and skill but never for wealth. The family survived day to day, patching old furniture for neighbors, mending what others threw away. The house smelled of sawdust and rice porridge. Every morning, Eli would hum while helping sand a stool or polish a chair. His mother, Liza, always smiled at the sound of his voice. "You sing just like the angels, Anak," she said, stroking his hair. Eli blushed and giggled, though he didn't believe her. That night, after dinner of dried fish and rice, Eli's father coughed violently. The illness had been growing worse. The little boy looked frightened. His father smiled weakly. "Don't worry, son. It's just old lungs full of dust." But deep down, Eli knew his father was getting weaker. That night, as rain tapped gently on the roof, he whispered a promise to himself, "One day, I'll sing for you, Papa. I'll make you proud." Years passed, and that promise grew stronger. Eli's love for music became his refuge from hardship. He sang at church, on the streets, and sometimes outside bars where tourists dropped coins into his small box. His voice matured, deep with emotion, textured with the pain of struggle and the warmth of hope. One afternoon, he saw a television inside a store window showing America's Got Talent. Bright lights, cheering crowds, judges smiling. It looked like another world, one of dreams, applause, and opportunity. He pressed his face to the glass, eyes wide. "Maybe one day," he whispered. His mother, standing beside him, smiled faintly but didn't stop him from dreaming. Months later, with borrowed money and a small guitar his father made from scrap wood, Eli took a bus to the city for an audition. The hall was enormous, filled with thousands of dreamers. Some laughed nervously, others prayed. When his turn came, Eli's hands shook as he held his guitar. On stage, the bright lights blinded him. The judges, including Simon Cowell, looked serious. "What's your name?" Simon asked. "Eli, sir. I come from the Philippines." "My father's a carpenter," he answered shyly. The crowd gave a small clap. He began singing a classic song, his voice sweet but unsteady, his hands trembling. The crowd listened kindly, but something was missing. When he finished, the applause was polite, not powerful. Simon leaned forward, speaking softly, "Eli, you have a beautiful tone, but you're not ready yet. Come back when you find your true voice." Eli smiled through the pain, nodded, and walked off the stage. Backstage, tears fell silently. His guitar felt heavier than ever. Outside, the world seemed gray. But even as his heart broke, a fire began to burn within. "I'll come back," he whispered. "And next time, they'll feel my song." The following years were not easy. Eli returned home to find his father's health failing fast. He worked odd jobs, carrying wood, cleaning shops, even singing in small bars for tips. Every night, he saved a few pesos in a tin can labeled for Papa's dream. Sometimes, he wanted to give up. Sometimes, he cursed the unfairness of life. But then he'd hear his father coughing softly, smiling proudly from his bed, saying, "You're doing good, son. You're singing from the heart now." Those words kept him alive. When his father finally passed away one quiet evening, Eli felt the world collapse. But even through grief, he remembered the promise he made as a little boy, to make him proud. It took years before the opportunity came again. One morning, scrolling through his old phone, Eli saw an announcement, "America's Got Talent, open auditions." His hands trembled. He looked at his father's photo on the wall, smiling under a thin layer of dust. He wiped it clean and said, "It's time." When he arrived at the audition venue, things looked different this time. He was no longer a shy boy. He was a man, shaped by hardship, carrying his father's memory like a sacred flame. As he waited backstage, surrounded by dancers, magicians, and singers, he touched his worn guitar. It was still the same one his father made. A crew member noticed and asked, "That looks old." Eli smiled softly. "It's more than old. It's home." When his name was called, the lights hit him once again, the same stage, the same man at the judge's table. Simon looked up curiously. "Eli? Wait, I remember you." Eli nodded, smiling humbly. "Yes, sir. You told me to come back when I find my voice. I think I finally did." The audience clapped warmly. "And what will you sing for us today?" asked Sophia. Eli took a deep breath. "A song I wrote for my father, it's called Hands of My Father." The theater went silent. The lights dimmed to a soft golden hue. Eli closed his eyes and began strumming the first chords. His voice came out gentle, trembling with raw emotion. "He built our dreams with his tired hands, carved love from broken wood. Though we had little, he gave it all, and taught me what it means to be good." The melody rose, powerful and haunting. Every word carried the ache of years of poverty, the warmth of family, and the pain of loss. The crowd began to quiet even more, caught in the spell of his song. Eli's voice cracked slightly in the chorus, his eyes filling with tears, but he kept singing. His emotions turned into music, grief transformed into beauty. The judges leaned forward, captivated. Sophia wiped her tears. Heidi covered her mouth. Even Simon's expression softened, his eyes glistened as he whispered, "Oh my God." Eli's final verse echoed through the hall, "Now I stand where dreams are born, with your old guitar in my hand. I sing for you, my father, the man who taught me to stand." The last chord hung in the air. Silence. Not a sound, not even a breath. Then, the entire crowd erupted into a roar. People stood, clapping and shouting his name. The judges rose one by one, giving him a standing ovation. Eli stood frozen, tears streaming down his cheeks. Simon stood up slowly, his voice breaking slightly. "Eli," he said, "when I first met you, you were a shy boy with potential. Now, you're an artist. That was one of the most beautiful performances I've ever heard." He pressed the golden buzzer. The music swelled, golden confetti rained down, and the entire hall filled with cheers. Eli dropped to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably, holding his guitar to his chest. It was more than victory, it was the fulfillment of a sacred promise. Backstage, his mother ran out, crying and laughing, holding a framed photo of Antonio. She hugged Eli tightly, whispering, "He's watching, Anak. He's watching from above." Simon walked onto the stage, his eyes moist. He placed his hand gently on Eli's shoulder. "Your father must have been a great man," he said softly. "He raised a true artist." Eli could barely speak through his tears, but he managed to whisper, "Thank you, sir. He was my hero." Simon nodded, visibly moved. "And you just became someone's hero today." The crowd continued to cheer as the confetti shimmered under the stage lights. Eli looked up, smiling through tears, whispering toward the sky, "We did it, Papa." For a moment, it felt as though time stopped. The little boy from Manila, who once sang barefoot on the streets, now stood on one of the world's biggest stages, with millions of hearts beating for him. In the following days, clips of his performance went viral. People all over the world shared his story, the boy who sang for his father, the carpenter's son who turned pain into art. Interviews poured in. TV hosts called his voice the sound of sincerity. Fans sent letters from different countries, telling him how his song reminded them of their own parents, their own struggles. But for Eli, fame wasn't the goal. Every time he performed Hands of My Father, he felt his father's presence, in the strum of the guitar, in the warmth of the lights, in every tear that fell from an audience member's eyes. One night, as he sat quietly in his hotel room, he opened his old tin can, the same one that once held a few coins. It was empty now, but it symbolized something much greater. He smiled, whispering again, "It was all worth it." He took out a small piece of paper, a handwritten note his father had left behind before he passed away. It said, "Don't chase success, son. Chase meaning. The rest will follow." Eli folded it gently and placed it inside his guitar case before falling asleep, tears still drying on his cheeks. Weeks later, during the finals, Eli stood once again under the blinding lights. This time, the entire world was watching. But even amid cameras, applause, and fame, he felt calm. Before starting, he looked at the sky projected behind him, a starry backdrop that reminded him of home. He whispered softly into the microphone, "This one's for you, Papa." And as he sang, the world seemed to fade away, leaving only the boy and his song, a son singing to the father who taught him how to dream. When the last note faded and the audience roared, Eli smiled quietly. He didn't need to win a trophy. He had already won something greater: respect, love, and peace. Simon came to him again after the show, shook his hand, and said, "Eli, you didn't just make me cry. You made me believe." The stage lights dimmed, the confetti glittered like stars, and Eli walked off the stage with his head high, holding his father's guitar close. Outside, under the vast Los Angeles sky, he took a deep breath of the cool night air. The city lights sparkled like golden dust, and for the first time, he felt free, free from pain, free from fear, free to sing his story to the world. And somewhere beyond those lights, in the quiet heavens, a carpenter's soul smiled proudly, hearing the echo of his son's song carried by the wind, a melody of love, sacrifice, and dreams fulfilled.